It was we in the party that pointed out early on, we could take them on. That technology, if met by conscious force of the working class, that we would come up with a language and a contract, and we would unite with the community to stop this, that would save jobs and stop the public from being gouged. But at the time, they didn't want to hear about it. They would have a very different attitude today. They would have a very different attitude about this today. As you can see in the attempts by the CWA and the Verizon workers to merge with Occupy Wall Street, to get help, to be open to people adopting Verizon stores. They can't do it themselves. Even the Longshore in California, when this company wanted to break the union and bring in have the right to have non-union workers in Longview, it took not only the union on the West Coast, it took the threat of an entire movement converging and shutting down the ports once again for the union to win a victory there. So we need to go over what we brought up very early on in our party on these issues, and where we won significant struggles, groundbreaking struggles, like the affirmative action, which literally opened the way for women and workers of color to be in every department, craft, union, and change the face of the phone company forever. And also where a lot of workers, I think that settlement was about $270 million at the time, which going back to the early 70s is, I don't know, somebody figure that out. Our view of how to prosecute the class struggle, we were the ones that were persecuted. It's so clear in the Boston school bus drivers, and who recently won an enormous victory, and who have struck many times over the years and so on. But I want to go back to the early days, because I was very involved in the union first getting in up in Boston. I was up there, spent a lot of time up there. The union at the time, this was coming about. These school bus drivers were driving children because of the desegregation of the schools. We in the party had organized the March Against Racism in 1974 of 25,000 in Boston. Prior to that march, there was the most vicious, violent, gang, racist thugs prevailing in Boston. We completely turned the situation around by our work that we did in the struggle against racism in Boston. So, but this was the atmosphere. You had the most racist school board, you had the most racist city government, and you had a group of workers, school bus drivers that had no union, that were half white and half black. Most of the white workers, lousiest wages, no benefits, and half the workers were white from South Boston. The ruling class never gets tired of telling everybody that the racism comes from the bottom up.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we're not blind to the fact that racism, when there's no struggle and no consciousness that amongst the poorer white workers can take root, and that's why we have to be there to fight it. But it comes from the top down to divide the working class. So here were our comrades who were school bus drivers in terrible conditions in this incredible atmosphere, attempting to organize the workers into a union and bring unity amongst them. Well, it was incredible what they did. Incredible the work that they did. And finally they got an agreement by all the workers to be and vote for the union. The racist school board came down to the bus yards, to the white bus yards. They came down and they spoke total overt racism to the school bus drivers. But in the meantime, who were coming home with less than $100 in their pay and no benefits. And at every step, they were countered by our comrades who were there to counter everything that they were doing, and who reached out to the community, who reached out to everyone they could find in the city of Boston to come to the side of and aid of the school bus drivers who were being so terribly, terribly oppressed and exploited in their conditions, in their pay, and who were divided by only one thing, by racism. You cannot know how the racists attempted to divide this. They would show up everywhere, and they were counted at every turn. And it wasn't just by words either. It was by thuggery and threat. So anyway, they finally managed to get the union, and they were going for union recognition. And they had to strike against the city, against the bus company, and against the school board, and against the racists, and they had to keep unity together in the union. So how are they going to do that? Did they tell the black workers, no, take a step back? Not at all. They told the white workers, we're not going to see anything better in our paychecks. We're not going to improve our lives if we play into this game. And everything has to change from this moment on. Because if we're going into strike, they're going to bring strikebreakers in. Some of the strikebreakers, some of the scabs will be white, and some of the scabs will be black. And we're going to be out there together, black and white. And if you see a white scab or a black scab and you want to yell, you dirty scab, fine. But one racist comment from you at anybody who's crossing that line, you will destroy the unity in our union. And I was up there for the recognition strike, and we were out there 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning with our paint that we were throwing on the scab buses and the flying squads that went around the city disabling them. It's rumored, there's a rumor that that happened. And it was great. And, you know, tempers flare, you know, so everybody was cool, black and white together during the strike. That in and of itself was just astounding. And a black driver who was scabbing, not someone who had been there. None of the workers who had worked in the company scabbed. These were all new hires. Not the situation that Paul is describing at all. And one of the white workers made a racist comment at a scab. I'll never forget this. I was there. Total silence. Total silence. We're standing in this giant driveway. There were police cars around. And I had yellow paint all over my sneakers and everyone. Total silence. And then two of the white workers walked up to the striker who did this. What are you doing? You're going to destroy us. Everything we fought for, you're going to destroy us. It was incredible. And the worker hung his head and walked away. And then they just continued. And they won the strike. The committee was jailed. And I'm not going to get into all the details of the just incredible thing. A short time out, and they won a contract. And for the first time, these school bus drivers, whose conditions were really horrendous, black and white, had something, some dignity, a little extra in their paycheck, some benefits, some vacation pay, some sick pay. It was a never-ending struggle.